The truth about credit cards: why banks want you in debt. Part 1: The Invisible Trap. What if I told you that one small piece of plastic in your wallet has made more billionaires than almost any business in history? Not because people use it, but because they misunderstand it. Every day, millions of people swipe their credit cards thinking they're buying time, earning rewards, or simply making life easier. But behind every swipe, something else happens. A machine you've never seen quietly starts making money. Not for you, for the bank. Here's the shocking part. Banks don't actually want you to pay everything on time. If every credit card user paid their full balance every single month, the entire business model would become dramatically less profitable. The real profits begin when people carry debt, when interest starts growing, when minimum payments become normal, when one purchase quietly turns into years of repayments. And most people never notice it's happening. Because debt doesn't feel dangerous in the beginning. It feels convenient. Imagine walking into a luxury hotel. The staff smile. The room is beautiful. Everything feels free. Until checkout day. That's exactly how credit card debt works. The pain is delayed. And delayed pain is incredibly easy for the human brain to ignore. Psychologists have studied this for decades. Our brains naturally value today's pleasure more than tomorrow's consequences. It's called present bias. And banks understand this better than almost anyone. They're not betting against your intelligence. They're betting against your psychology. Because every swipe creates a tiny emotional reward. You get the product immediately. But the financial pain arrives weeks later. Your brain separates the pleasure from the cost. That's one of the biggest psychological advantages ever created in consumer finance. As investor Warren Buffett once said, "If you buy things you do not need, soon you will have to sell things you need." Most people hear that quote and think it's about shopping. It isn't. It's about freedom. Because every unnecessary dollar borrowed today reduces tomorrow's choices. Now here's something even more surprising. Credit cards themselves are not the villain. In fact, some of the wealthiest people in the world use credit cards every single day. The difference isn't the card. It's the person holding it. One person uses credit as a financial tool. Another uses it as a lifestyle upgrade. Same product. Completely different outcome. That's why two people earning exactly the same salary can end up living completely different lives. One slowly builds wealth. The other slowly builds debt. Not because they earn different incomes. Because they make different financial decisions. Every single day. Over the next few minutes, you're going to discover why banks designed credit cards the way they did. Why intelligent people still fall into debt. Why rewards programs aren't really rewarding most people. And how financially successful people use the exact same system to make money instead of losing it. Because once you understand how the game actually works, you'll never look at your wallet The same way again. Part 2. Why the system was built this way. Let's ask a different question. If credit cards are so dangerous, why do banks keep offering them? To almost everyone? Why do they spend billions of dollars every year? Advertising rewards, cashback, travel points, and exclusive benefits. Because the product you are. Every time you apply for a credit card, the bank begins asking one question. How profitable will this person become? Not, how successful are they? Not, how intelligent are they? Not even, how much money do they currently have? Their real question is, how likely is this person to borrow tomorrow? Because borrowing creates interest. Interest creates predictable income. And predictable income creates billion-dollar businesses. Think about it this way. Imagine owning a machine that lends $1 and gets back $1 plus more. Then it repeats that process millions of times, every single day. That's exactly what modern banking became. Not because banks sell money, because they sell time. You're not borrowing dollars. You're borrowing future income. Every swipe says, I'll let my future self pay for this. At first, that sounds harmless. Until your future paycheck already belongs to purchases you barely remember making. That's when something fascinating happens. Your salary stops feeling like income. It starts feeling like recovery. Month after month, you're no longer working to build wealth. You're working to catch up. And that's the trap. Morgan Housel once wrote, "The highest form of wealth is waking up every morning and being able to do what you want." Debt quietly steals that freedom. Not overnight. One payment at a time. Now here's something almost nobody realizes. Banks don't expect everyone to fail. They only need a percentage of people to carry balances, because those balances generate extraordinary profits. Meanwhile, people who always pay in full become excellent customers too. Why? Because they keep using the system. They generate transaction fees. They recommend the product. They normalize credit cards. For everyone else, it's a brilliantly designed ecosystem. Some people feed it with interest. Others feed it with transactions. Either way, the machine keeps running. Now think about your own life. How many purchases have you made simply because the payment felt invisible? A dinner, a new phone, a vacation, an expensive watch, a few taps. No physical cash leaving your hand. No immediate pain. Behavioral economists discovered something remarkable. People consistently spend more when using credit cards than when using cash. Not because they're richer, Because paying feels less painful, the brain experiences less emotional resistance. Which means you don't need stronger willpower. You need a better system. Because every financial decision is made twice. First, inside your mind. Then, inside your wallet. And whoever controls the first one usually controls the second. That's why this documentary isn't really about credit cards. It's about psychology. Because once you understand how your own brain makes financial decisions, you stop becoming the product, and you start becoming the owner. But this raises an even bigger question. If intelligent people know all of this, why do doctors, engineers, lawyers, and even finance professionals still end up drowning in credit card debt? The answer has almost nothing to do with money, and everything to do with human behavior. Part 3: The Psychology of Debt. Here's one of the biggest myths in personal finance. People don't fall into credit card debt because they're bad at math. They fall into debt because they're human. Think about it. The average person doesn't wake up and say, "Today, I'm going to destroy my financial future." It never happens that way. Instead, it starts with one purchase, then another, then another. Nothing feels dangerous because every decision looks reasonable on its own. A new laptop. I need it for work. A vacation. I deserve a break. A luxury phone. I'll use it for years. A designer watch. I've worked hard. Individually, they all make sense. Collectively, they become a prison. James Clear once said, "Every action you take is a vote for the person you wish to become." The problem is, most financial decisions aren't changing your bank account. They're changing your identity. Every swipe teaches your brain that borrowing is normal. And the brain loves normal. Because normal requires no effort. This is called the habit loop. Cue. Action. Reward. Repeat. You see something you want. You swipe. You feel good. Your brain stores the shortcut. Next time, the decision becomes even easier. Eventually, you stop asking, "Can I afford this?" and start asking, "Can I afford the monthly payment?" That single shift changes everything. Because wealthy people think in ownership. Most consumers think in installments. And banks know this. That's why advertisements almost never tell you the full price. Instead they ask, only $49 a month. Only $299 per month. 0 down. No payments for 6 months. Notice what disappeared? The total cost. Because humans naturally underestimate future pain. Behavioral economist Daniel Kahneman spent decades studying how people make decisions. One of his biggest discoveries was simple. Our brains don't evaluate choices rationally. We evaluate them emotionally first, then justify them with logic afterward. That's exactly how debt grows. Emotion first, logic later. Now imagine this. Two people walk into the same electronics store. Both earn the same salary. Both want the same television. One asks, "Will this make my life better?" The other asks, "What investment opportunity am I giving up?" Same product. Completely different psychology. One sees consumption. The other sees opportunity cost. An opportunity cost might be the most expensive invisible force in finance, because every dollar can only do one job. You can spend it, or you can make it work. Never both. Warren Buffett once explained it perfectly. The stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. The same idea applies to almost every financial decision. Patience is rarely exciting, but it's almost always profitable. Meanwhile, credit card companies understand something else. People love instant gratification. Your brain releases dopamine before you even own the product. The anticipation often feels better than the purchase itself. That's why online shopping, combined with credit cards, is one of the most powerful psychological combinations ever created. One click. Instant reward. Delayed consequence. It's almost perfectly designed to bypass self-control. But here's the twist. The truly wealthy also love convenience. They also use credit cards. They also collect rewards. The difference is they never allow convenience to become dependency. They make the card serve them. Most people end up serving the card. And that raises the most important question. If successful investors use credit cards too, what exactly are they doing that everyone else isn't? Part 4. How the wealthy use credit differently. Here's the moment. Most people get confused. If credit cards are so dangerous, why do millionaires carry them too? Some of the world's wealthiest entrepreneurs rarely pay with cash. They use credit cards every single day. So, what's different? The answer is one word. Intent. Average consumers use credit to buy things they cannot afford today. The wealthy use credit to improve cash flow, earn rewards, protect liquidity, and build financial leverage. Notice the difference? One borrows to consume. The other borrows to optimize. That's an entirely different game. Take Warren Buffett. Despite being worth billions, he's famous for still using a simple credit card for everyday purchases. Not because he needs the money. Because he understands. Cash has options. When your cash stays invested, it continues working. Your credit card simply becomes a payment tool, not a borrowing tool. That's the mindset shift. Wealthy people don't ask, "Can I buy this?" They ask, "Should my cash leave my investments for this?" That's a completely different question. Now imagine two people. Both have $10,000. The first person uses all $10,000 to buy a luxury vacation. The second keeps the money invested, lets it continue compounding, uses a credit card for convenience, and pays the balance before a single dollar of interest appears. Same card. Completely different outcome. One paid interest. The other earned returns. This is why financial literacy beats financial income. Because money doesn't create behavior. Behavior creates money. Charlie Munger once said, "Knowing what you don't know is more useful than being brilliant." And that's exactly what successful investors understand. They know debt is powerful. But power without discipline becomes destruction. Think of electricity. Used correctly, it powers entire cities. Used carelessly, it can kill. Credit works the same way. Now let's talk about something almost nobody teaches: your credit score. Most people believe a high credit score means you're financially successful. It doesn't. A credit score simply tells lenders how reliable you are at borrowing money. You can have an excellent credit score and still have almost no net worth. And you can have millions in investments while barely using credit at all. Don't confuse bank trust with financial freedom. They're not the same thing. Here's another lesson. Wealthy people understand. They never allow interest to work against them. They want interest working for them. Every dollar invested can compound. Every dollar borrowed irresponsibly can compound too. Compounding is completely neutral. It doesn't care whether it's building your wealth or building the banks. It simply keeps multiplying, whatever direction you choose. That's why Albert Einstein's famous quote is so powerful. Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it, earns it. He who doesn't, pays it. Whether he actually said those exact words is debated. But the principle remains absolutely true. Every month, you either become the owner of compounding or its customer. Very few people stay in the middle. And that leads us to the final question. If the financial system is designed this way, how do you actually escape it? Not with motivation, not with extreme budgeting, but with a system that quietly makes wealth almost automatic. Part 5: The Escape Plan. So, how do you escape a system that was designed to keep you borrowing? Not by cutting up your credit cards. Not by avoiding banks. And definitely not by pretending debt doesn't exist. You escape by changing one thing: your relationship with money. Because here's the truth: credit cards didn't create the problem. They simply magnified habits that already existed. If you constantly spend more than you earn, a credit card will expose it. If you already live below your means, a credit card becomes nothing more than a convenient payment tool. That's why the first investment isn't in stocks. It isn't in real estate. It isn't even in Bitcoin. It's in your behavior. Morgan Housel wrote something remarkable. Doing well with money has little to do with how smart you are and a lot to do with how you behave. Read that again. Not intelligence. Behavior. Because wealth isn't built during one big decision. It's built during thousands of tiny ones. Every coffee you don't finance. Every gadget you don't upgrade. Every unnecessary purchase you delay. Every dollar you choose to invest instead. Those tiny decisions quietly become financial freedom. Now imagine two futures. In the first, every salary increase creates a bigger house, a newer car, and higher monthly payments. From the outside, life looks successful. Inside, nothing has changed. You're still waiting for the next paycheck. Now imagine the second future. Every salary increase buys more ownership, more investments, more productive assets, more freedom. Your lifestyle doesn't inflate. Your net worth does. 10 years later, the difference is extraordinary. Not because one person earned dramatically more. Because one person kept buying liabilities. The other kept buying ownership. Here's a challenge. The next time you're about to buy something, pause for 10 seconds and ask yourself one question. Will this purchase make me look wealthy or become wealthy? That single question has the power to change your financial life. Because every dollar is casting a vote for the life you'll live, for the freedom you'll have, for the future you're building. The wealthiest people in the world don't simply earn money. They buy time, choices, freedom, ownership. And that's the real lesson hidden behind every credit card. The goal was never to avoid debt completely. The goal was to make sure debt never owned you. Because the day your investments begin paying for your lifestyle instead of your salary is the day you stop working just to survive. And start building real wealth. If this documentary changed the way you think about money, share it with someone before they make their next financial decision. Because one conversation, one insight, or one different choice today can completely change the next 20 years of someone's life. And remember, the richest people don't have the biggest wallets. They own the biggest systems, build systems, own assets. Stay patient and let your money work harder than you ever have. Cinematic outro. 20 years from now, you probably won't remember the phone you almost bought, the shoes, the expensive dinner, or the impulse purchase that felt so important. But you'll definitely remember whether you invested, whether you started, whether you gave your future self a chance. Because wealth is rarely built through one brilliant decision. It's built through thousands of ordinary ones. Every dollar you control today becomes another employee working for you tomorrow. And one day, without even realizing it, you'll wake up and discover that your investments have quietly replaced what your salary never could. Real freedom. Welcome to Wealth Maps, where we don't just follow money, we learn how wealth is actually built.